locked up in Texas. I thought I'd just have to survive the days. Instead, I became the prison's tattoo artist, carving respect into skin with a paperclip needle. But in here, every mark has a price. And one wrong tattoo almost got me killed. Stick with me and subscribe to Women Prison Stories for more true survival stories from behind bars. The first time I pressed a sharpened paperclip into someone's skin, my hands were shaking so bad, I thought I'd ruin it. The hum of the laundry machines covered the quick gasps of the woman sitting in front of me, her arms stretched across my lap like an offering. I remember the smell of bleach mixed with sweat, steam rising from the dryers, and my own heartbeat pounding like an alarm in my chest. That was the moment I stopped being just another inmate and started being someone people whispered about. Someone they looked for when they wanted more than the gray routine of prison life. But before all that, I was nobody. I came to prison at 29, sentenced to 8 years for armed robbery. I wasn't the brains behind it, that was my boyfriend, Troy. But I was dumb enough to ride along, mask over my face, pistol in my trembling hand. The clerk never even resisted. We ran, we got caught, and Troy flipped before the ink on the police report dried. He walked with probation. I got years. Inside, I had no plan. No one's ever ready for the sound of that first cell door slamming shut. Metal on metal, echoing like it seals off the rest of the world. The air was thick with disinfectant and something sour that clung to the walls. Women called out from cells, sizing me up like predators circling fresh meat. At first, I stayed quiet. I kept my head down in the cafeteria, avoided the loudmouths in the yard, and counted every minute on the clock. But prison has a way of sniffing out weakness, and silence only gets you so far. It was Marisol who saw me sketching in the corner of the day room one night, using the stub of a dull pencil and a scrap of paper ripped from an old Bible. She leaned over my shoulder, her breath hot with menthol smoke. "You draw good," she said. Her voice had that flat tone women in here used when a compliment was never free. I shrugged, trying not to let my hand shake. "You ever ink?" I didn't answer at first, but she didn't wait. "We need someone. Our last girl got shipped. You got steady hands, you can make a living in here." A living. Behind bars. The thought clung to me like sweat. The tools came together faster than I thought they would. A motor from a CD player, a pen barrel, a spring, a power cord stripped from a fan, and the needles, paper clips filed sharp, sterilized over a flame until they glowed red. Crude, but enough. We set up in the laundry room because the machines ran loud and hot, and the COs only came through on a schedule. You could time down to the minute. The smell of detergent and bleach covered the sting of burned ink, and the steam kept our voices muffled. The first job was small, a teardrop on a girl's hand. She wanted it done quick, no questions. My hand trembled so bad I had to bite the inside of my cheek to steady it. The motor buzzed, paperclip needle dipping in the blackened soot ink we'd scraped together from melted chess pieces and shampoo. When I finished, she looked at it, flexed her fingers, and smiled with her lips, but not her eyes. "Not bad," she said. Word spread. In prison, reputation is currency. And with every tattoo I laid down, my name carried a little more weight. Women came to me with stories etched into their skin. Names of kids they hadn't seen in years. Dates they never wanted to forget. Symbols of gangs they belonged to or wanted to belong to. I learned to read people by the tattoos they asked for. A rose meant a dead sister. A crown meant allegiance. A broken chain meant freedom they'd never taste. Some wanted beauty, some wanted power, and some wanted scars covered up, so they could pretend they'd never happened. Marisol became my business partner. She arranged deals, collected payments, and kept watch. Cigarettes, ramen packs, stamps. I didn't have to hustle on the yard anymore. My hands made me valuable. But value in prison doesn't just attract friends. It attracts predators. One night, a CO named Riker cornered me in the corridor after laundry duty. He was tall, heavy-set, his belt clinking with keys that sounded louder in the empty hall. He leaned in close, smelling of coffee and cheap cologne. "I hear you're running a little side business," he said, his voice casual but sharp underneath. I froze. My mouth went dry. "I don't care what you do with the girls," he went on, "but you're going to cut me in, 20%, or I start searching the laundry room a little more carefully." He smiled without humor, tapped the bars with his baton, and walked away. That night, I lay on my bunk staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of fluorescent lights. I thought about refusing, about taking my tools and hiding them, but I knew better. Inside, you can't just say no to a CO, not unless you're ready to lose everything. So I paid him. Weeks passed. My work got better, cleaner. The tattoos looked professional, almost like Free World Inc. Women who'd never spoken to me before were suddenly offering protection, favors, or just a place to sit at their table. But with respect came jealousy. It was Shannon, a tall, wiry woman with pale eyes and a voice that always sounded like it was on the edge of breaking. She'd been running her own hustles, trading commissary, smuggling in pills through visits. My tattoos cut into her business, and she didn't hide her resentment. "You think you're queen of the block now," she hissed one afternoon in the yard, her face inches from mine. "Keep your head up, artist. People like you don't last long." Marisol told me to ignore her. "Shannon's bark is worse than her bite," she said, but I didn't believe it. Not with the way Shannon's eyes followed me everywhere, cold and calculating. The night it happened, I was in the laundry room again, finishing a rose on Marisol's wrist. The machines rumbled, the steam fogged the air, and my needle buzzed steady. Then the sound broke, footsteps fast and wrong. The door slammed open. Shannon stood there, flanked by two girls I barely knew. In her hand was a sharpened toothbrush, the kind we all knew could end a life in seconds. "You should have stayed small," she spat. "Now you're in my way." I froze, needle still in my hand, Marisol's wrist half finished. The machines droned on, but in that moment, everything else went silent. And then she lunged. The first time I held that makeshift tattoo needle, a bent paperclip sharpened on concrete, tied to a pen casing, wired to a scavenged motor. I knew I was crossing a line I couldn't come back from. It buzzed against my fingers like a living thing, hot, trembling, dangerous. The hum was low but constant, and every time I pressed it into flesh, I swore it echoed louder than the prison alarms. The laundry room had become my world, not the rows of rusted washers, not the smell of bleach that burned my nose, not even the sweat-stained uniforms hanging damp on the lines. No, what defined that place was the chair we stole from the chapel, the sheet we draped as a curtain, and the whispers that followed every time I etched ink into someone's skin. At first, it was survival. Tattoos bought me cigarettes, a tray swap for better food, sometimes even protection. But soon it was more. The women lined up for me, hardened lifers, jumpy newcomers, even officers who looked the other way because they wanted their own marks hidden under their sleeves. Each needle stroke carved me deeper into prison life and deeper into danger. Rosa was my lookout. She'd sit by the dryers pretending to fold sheets, her eyes always darting toward the guards' patrol routes. She was the one who convinced me to do it in the first place. "Respect is ink, Mija," she'd whispered. "Give them what they want, and you'll never eat alone." But respect in prison comes with a price, and I was about to find out just how high it could be. The first real trouble came with Crystal. She was lean, jittery, with tattoos creeping up her neck like weeds, eyes sharp as razors. She wanted a name inked across her stomach, a name I didn't recognize. I asked once, and she shut me down with a glare that froze me. When I finished, she looked at it in the cracked mirror and smiled. "Perfect," she said. But then she leaned close, her breath hot with menthols. "Don't tell anyone who this is for. Not Rosa, not nobody. You hear me? Secrets in prison were currency. But secrets about tattoos, that was blood money." I nodded, though I felt the weight of it settle into my chest like a stone. Later, Rosa pulled me aside. "What did Crystal want?" Her tone was casual, but her eyes weren't. Rosa always knew more than she let on. I lied. "Just some flowers. Nothing special." The first lie, the one that cracked everything open. The laundry room wasn't safe forever. One night, while I was shading a rose on a girl's shoulder, the door slammed open. It wasn't a guard. It was Dana, the shot caller for one of the toughest groups inside. She walked in like she owned the air we breathed, her fists wrapped in tape, her stare sharp as glass. "Word is," Dana said, "you're giving ink to Crystal." The machine in my hand stuttered to a stop. I looked at Rosa, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "She pays," I managed. Dana stepped closer until her shadow drowned me. "Crystal don't pay me." The room went silent, the dryers rattling like distant thunder. I thought Dana was going to hit me right there, but instead, she smiled. "You're mine now. From now on, you don't put ink on nobody without my say-so." You got that? I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell her I wasn't anybody's. But survival isn't about pride. It's about breathing another day. So I nodded. Dana's hand landed on my shoulder, heavy, almost gentle. "Good girl." From then on, the tattoos weren't mine anymore. Dana dictated who got ink, what designs, even where they went. Prison politics etched themselves into skin through me. A teardrop on one girl meant loyalty. A black star on another meant silence. I was marking women like cattle, binding them to Dana's control with every drop of ink. Rosa hated it. "You don't see what she's doing?" Rosa hissed one night. "She's turning you into her weapon." "She's keeping me alive." I shot back, though my hands shook. "Alive." Rosa scoffed. "You think Crystal's gonna let this slide? You're standing in the middle of a war you don't even understand." She wasn't wrong. Crystal stopped talking to me. She'd pass me in the hall, her mouth twisted, her eyes burning with something I couldn't name. Hate, maybe, or betrayal. I remembered her warning, the way she'd told me not to tell Rosa, not to tell anyone. And yet, somehow, Dana had found out, which meant Rosa had told her. The realization hit me like a fist. My lookout, my friend, had sold me out. Things escalated fast. 2 weeks later, I was called to the showers. I didn't want to go, but skipping a summon wasn't an option. The tiles were slick, the air damp with steam and mildew. Crystal was there, waiting. "You think you can play both sides," she hissed, pressing me against the wall. A blade flashed in her hand, tiny but sharp, a piece of metal filed down to a lethal edge. I started, but she pressed it harder against my ribs. "Dana owns you now, yeah? You think she'll protect you? She'll throw you under the bus the second it suits her." Her eyes darted around, making sure we were alone. "That name you tattooed on me? That's my son. He's on the outside. Nobody knows about him, but you. If Dana finds out," her voice broke, but her grip didn't. "You breathe a word, and I'll slit you open. Understand?" I nodded, heart pounding so hard I thought she'd feel it through the blade. When she let me go, my shirt was damp with sweat and fear. That night, I lay awake on the thin mattress, listening to the sounds of prison. Snores, whispers, the distant clank of keys. And I realized something brutal. I wasn't a tattoo artist anymore. I wasn't even my own person. I was a pawn, caught between Dana's control and Crystal's secret, with Rosa's betrayal cutting deepest of all. And in prison, pawns don't survive long. The breaking point came when Dana ordered me to ink her own symbol across Crystal's arm, a mark of ownership, of dominance. I froze, the needle buzzing in my hand. Crystal sat stiff, her jaw tight, eyes burning into mine. She didn't say a word, but her silence screamed louder than alarms. Dana leaned in, her voice low. Do it. If I refused, Dana would crush me. If I obeyed, Crystal would never forgive me. Either way, I was signing my death warrant in ink. And that's when I realized the only way out wasn't through tattoos or loyalty or silence. The only way out was to play them both. But to do that, I'd have to risk everything, even my life. The needle buzzed like a trapped wasp in my hand, its vibration crawling into my bones. I stared at Crystal's bare arm, pale under the laundry room light. Dana stood behind me, her hand resting on my shoulder like a brand. Her voice was low, calm, but sharp enough to cut glass. Do it. Crystal didn't flinch. Her eyes locked on mine, wide and unblinking. There was no plea in them, no fear, just fury, a silent scream that said, "If you do this, we're done." I hesitated, the point of the needle hovering a hair above her skin. My throat was dry, my palms slick. The hum of the machine filled the silence, louder than footsteps in the hall, louder than the dryers, louder than my own heartbeat. And then I made my choice. I pressed the switch, but instead of dragging the needle across her arm, I let the machine sputter out. I looked straight at Dana and said, "The machine's dead. I need to fix it." For a second, Dana's eyes narrowed. I thought she'd see through me, call me out. But then she smirked, like she'd already won. "Fine. Tomorrow. Don't make me wait again." She walked out, the door slamming behind her. Crystal stayed sitting, still as stone. The second we were alone, she grabbed my wrist, so hard the bones ground together. "You just put a target on your back," she whispered. "For both of us." I yanked my arm free, my pulse still racing. "Then help me take her down." That night, Rosa slid onto my bunk when the lights went out. She always moved quiet, like a cat, her presence announced only by the faint smell of cheap soap and sweat. "You're playing with fire," she murmured. "You sold me out to Dana." I shot back. My voice cracked, but I didn't care. She didn't deny it. Better her than Crystal. You don't know what Crystal's capable of. "She's protecting something," I said. "Someone." Rosa leaned close, her breath warm against my ear. "And Dana wants to own everyone. There's no side to pick here, Chica, only the side that keeps you breathing." Her hand slid across mine, slow, deliberate. For a moment, I forgot about Dana, Crystal, the buzzing machine. For a moment, it was just Rosa and me, two women starved for touch in a place built to crush it out of us. But then she pulled away. "Choose wrong, and you're dead by morning." Sleep didn't come that night. Every creak of the bunks, every cough, every distant shout twisted my gut tighter. I kept hearing Crystal's voice in the showers, knife pressed to my ribs. If Dana finds out, if, not when, that meant I still had time. The next day, I went back to the laundry room with the machine fixed, but not the way Dana expected. I'd rigged it with a sliver of sharpened metal hidden in the casing. If Dana wanted me to mark Crystal, I'd have one shot to turn the game around. When Dana arrived, her crew in tow, the air thickened. Rosa sat by the dryers, pretending not to watch. Crystal rolled up her sleeve, her jaw tight. "Do it," Dana said. The machine buzzed to life. I pressed the needle to Crystal's arm, tracing the first faint line. Her skin trembled under my touch, but she didn't move. My own hands shook, the hum louder than thunder in my ears. Then I made my move. I twisted the casing, snapped the hidden blade free, and slashed it across the table between us. Not at Crystal, at Dana. The room erupted. Dana roared, lunging at me, but Crystal jumped up, shoving her back. Rosa darted forward, grabbing my arm, screaming, "Run." The dryers rattled as bodies crashed against them. Shouts echoed down the hall. The guards would be here any second. I bolted, out of the laundry, down the corridor, heart slamming against my ribs like a drum. Behind me, I heard Crystal yelling, Dana cursing, Rosa's voice tangled in the chaos. Then the sirens wailed. They threw us all into solitary. No explanations, no questions. Just slammed doors, darkness and silence. In the box, time stopped existing. Minutes dripped into hours, hours into days. The only sound was the occasional shuffle of boots outside, the clang of a food tray sliding through the slot. I replayed everything over and over. The look in Crystal's eyes when I didn't mark her. Rosa's hand on mine, soft but fleeting. Dana's rage when I turned the blade. When they finally pulled me out, my body was weak, my head spinning from the stale air. The warden waited, flanked by 2 guards. His eyes bored into me like drills. "You've been busy," he said. "We don't tolerate gangs running operations in my prison. And you," he jabbed a finger toward me, "you've made yourself the center of it." My mouth was dry, my voice barely a whisper. "So what now?" He smiled, thin and cold. "Now you pay the price." Back in the yard, nothing was the same. Dana's crew glared at me like wolves. Crystal sat alone, chain smoking, her eyes shadowed but alive. Rosa avoided me at first, then started drifting closer again, like nothing had happened. But the whispers followed me everywhere. She defied Dana. She sided with Crystal. She can't be trusted. Respect had built me up. Now it was going to tear me down. One afternoon, Rosa cornered me by the fence. Her hands shook as she lit a cigarette, shielding the flame from the wind. "You can't stay neutral anymore," she said. "Dana wants blood. Crystal's planning something big. You pick a side, or you won't live long enough to tattoo another name." I stared at her, the weight of it crushing me. "And you? Which side are you on?" Her eyes flickered, unreadable, the side that wins. That's when I knew. Rosa wasn't my lookout. She wasn't my friend. She was a survivor. And survivors change masks as often as they breathe. The end came fast. Too fast. One night, alarms blared across the block. Doors slammed, boots thundered, women screamed. Word spread like wildfire. Dana's crew had jumped Crystal in the showers. Guards swarmed, batons cracking, water running red. I pushed through the chaos, my chest tearing open with panic. I found Crystal slumped against the tiles, blood mixing with water at her feet. She looked up at me, her face pale, lips trembling. "You didn't mark me," she whispered. "That's the only reason I'm still breathing." Her hand reached for mine, weak but steady. "Finish what you started. Tell my son, tell him his mother fought." Before I could answer, guards ripped me away, dragging me down the hall. Her voice echoed after me, fragile but fierce. And just like that, she was gone. After that night, everything shifted. Dana was thrown into seg, her crew scattered. Crystal's name spread through the block like fire, whispered with respect, with fear, with sorrow. And me, I kept tattooing. Not for Dana, not for power, for memory, for survival, for Crystal. The laundry room still smelled of bleach and sweat. The machines still rattled. The guards still looked the other way. But every mark I etched into skin carried more than ink. It carried a choice, a story, a scar. I became a tattoo artist behind bars. Not because I wanted to, not because it made me strong, but because in this place, ink is the only thing that lasts. And sometimes, it's the only way we remember who we are. Final closing image. The last tattoo I did before release was a single word, etched onto my own wrist with that same paperclip needle. freedom. It bled, it burned, but it was mine. And in a place where nothing belonged to me, that was everything.